It is cold, it is cold, and it is cold. It's December here on the farm, which means it's peak hay selling season basically. Nothing's growing anymore. People are buying hay. Prices are going up. Why? This season, the 2024 hay season, was a trickier one. We had a super dry summer, specifically more in the July through August and September areas. Now, we had a few timely rains in certain cuttings that, definitely helped the yields, but we did not have the normal rainfall that we normally get, and that hurt yield in a lot of different ways. It is only December 5th, and my barn is getting drastically empty. And almost all the hay you see in here is already spoken for and sold. It's not necessarily a bad thing because it's good that I've sold all my hay. I don't want to have any leftover hay going into the next hay season, but it's kind of a bad thing too. And that kind of leads me into what this video is about. We're going to talk about two perspectives, the buyer's perspective and the seller's perspective on a dry hay year like this. We're going to talk about why hay prices are going to be higher, why supply is going to be down, what that means for the buyer and the seller. Because 2024 was an exceptionally dry year, we did not have the yields that we normally see in a typical hay season. So what does that mean for the buyer? Well, lack of rainfall, low yields, that means that the supply is going to be down. It's not going to be like other years where there's an ample hay supply or a high hay supply. We're going to have a low hay supply. However, the demand is still going to be there on a lot of different levels. In our area, we still have the same amount of dairy farmers, the same amount of beef farmers, the same amount of goat farmers, the same amount of people with sheep and horses, and the same amount of Amish. They all still need hay, but the hay's just not going to be there in as plentiful form. If you pay attention to economics class or whatever class you learn it from, basic supply and demand will tell you that if the supply is down and the demand is high, the price is going to go up. Whereas vice versa, if the supply is high and the demand is low, the price is going to go down. In our area, we have a pretty high demand for hay. It's kind of a pretty constant demand. We're in an area where there's always hay being sold and there's a very high demand for that hay. So even on a year where the supply is high, we can still get a pretty decent price. But on a year like this where the supply is low, that kind of already high price is going to skyrocket. And that's kind of what we're going to be seeing here in this area. So for the buyer, that means that your hay price is most likely going to go up if it hasn't already. Now, in some cases, you could probably still get your hay for cheaper. I definitely see it. There's places where you can get hay for cheaper. They may kind of be just someone that makes hay as a hobby or maybe has extra hay, or someone who maybe does hay on such a large scale that they can afford to price it cheaper just based on their efficiency of the operation. But for the most part, the hay prices are going to kind of climb, and they're slowly starting to climb. I've talked with other farmers. They're running out of hay. And again, it is only December 5th. We've still got all of December, January, February, March, April. Yeah, about 5 months until we start making any sort of hay. So that's kind of the predicament we're in. Now, what does that mean for the seller? Well, for the seller, we still need to make a profit, or at least cover our bases, cover the bottom line, break even. With super low yields like this, we don't want to lose money. We still want to at least break even. So it's kind of a good thing for the sellers because, hey, we're selling all of our hay. Like for me, I'm selling all of my hay. There is no doubt I will have an empty barn by the time May 10th comes around, probably well before that. We're going to be empty, which is a good thing because I don't want this year's hay going over into next year. I want to be sold out. I want to be empty. So that's kind of a good thing. The bad thing is, though, when you're doing hay on a scale like this, where this is my business, this is how I make a living, I provide hay to a lot of different customers, and I want to keep those customers supplied so that they stick with me, in the long run. I want to keep these customers around year round. And if I sell hay to them 9 months out of the year and then be like, yep, ran out of hay, sorry, well, I may lose that customer. So from a seller's perspective, it's a good thing, but it's also a tricky thing because we don't want to lose some of the good customers that we have. So in my case, and maybe some other farmers' cases, I'm trying to buy and sell hay. I'm literally becoming not just a grower and a seller, but a broker and a seller. I still have certain customers that I want to keep supplied. Even if it's just 2 or 3 people that need hay, I still want to keep them supplied. So I may be buying hay and selling it to them at cost just to hold on to those customers. Now, ideally, we'd like to still be making a little bit of money on those. Now, normally the money that we make off those broker deals, the profit that we make is normally just enough to cover my labor and stuff. I'm not really making a whole lot of money on them, but I'm still keeping my customer around. So that's kind of the tricky part that a year like this puts the seller in, because we still want to hold on to customers. We still want to treat them right. We still want to make sure that we're supplying them with what they need, but it can be tricky to do that. Now, the other thing we need to talk about as far as the seller goes is if the yield is down, the prices are going to go up. The reason is the farmer is still going to spend about the same amount of money to grow the crop. He's still going to spend roughly the same amount of money on inputs. His running costs are still going to be the same pretty much, because with hay equipment, we still have to run over the same acres. We still have to mow it and ted it and rake it and bale it. Maybe sometimes you wouldn't have to ted as much on a lighter year, but for the most part, we're still running all of our equipment over the same acres, still putting about the same amount of fertilizer and, pesticides, insecticides, whatever it is, or maybe you're organic. I don't know. But we're still probably putting the same amount of running costs and expenses into this hay. We have to make that money back. And if the yield is down, if we sell that hay for the same price as we would on a normal year, we're going to be losing money. So in order for us to either break even or hopefully still make a profit, the price of that hay has to go up. That's just economics. Now, I really hate charging people an arm and a leg for hay, and I try to price my hay as reasonable as I can. And I feel like on a year like this, I have my hay priced for a pretty reasonable price compared to some other people who are, very expensive, which some people have the reputation they can charge a lot of money, and that's totally okay. If it works for them, by all means, do it. But like I said, I don't want to charge people crazy amounts of money, especially on a year like this, where not only is the supply and demand out of whack, the economy is not great either. And you can't argue the economy is not great, and people are hurting for money. And so on top of all this, again, it hurts to kind of charge people an arm and a leg for hay. And so I try to have lots of different types of hay in here to cater to everybody. Sometimes that can be really tricky. So that's kind of the buyer and the seller standpoint. That's supply and demand this year. Like I said, hay prices are going to go up in your area, most likely, if they haven't already. Now, there are some things you can do as the buyer to kind of help yourselves out. And being a buyer, I can tell you what will work. One, become a returning customer. I know for me, my returning customers, I try to treat them well because I want them to keep coming back. So if I got customers that have been buying from me for months or a couple years or whatever it may be, they do get certain perks and benefits. They may get discounts on hay. They'll get first dibs on hay. I hold hay for them. I give them free delivery a lot. Those are some of the perks that can cushion the blow. Another thing you can do as the buyer is buy in bulk. When you buy in bulk, oftentimes the farmer will be willing to bring the price down a little bit per bale or per ton, whatever it is, or give you free delivery. Like I said, because the farmer or the seller, he still wants to move that hay. And if he can move 300 bales for $7 a bale rather than move 100 bales for $7.25 or $7.50, he's probably willing to do that. So as the buyer, that is one thing that you can keep in mind. Those are kind of the two things I can really only think about. Become a returning customer, because most farmers and sellers, they'll treat you better. They'll treat you well. Buy in bulk, you can get things cheaper normally that way. Hopefully that kind of helps you figure out what you can do here. Like I said, we still got 5 months until we're making hay again. Hay prices are going to be all over the place, I'm telling you. So try to prepare the best that you can. And like I said, we don't want to jip people out of money, but we run a business and we still have to make money. So hopefully this video was helpful. Hopefully this maybe cleared out some things on maybe why hay prices are expensive for you. Maybe they're not for you in your area. Let me know in the comments below. But hey, if you have any questions, like I said, leave a comment below. I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next one.